Okay, so I'm going to show you the warp tool today. And warp tool is one of the, how would you put it? It's one of the tools that is the most insidious in the world of image processing. And by insidious, I mean it's sneaky. It's kind of, you don't even know it's being used. So let's go to Google first. I'm going to do, before I show you this, I want to find, I'm going to type in hang on, celebrities before, uh, sorry, the spacebar on this computer is really annoying, and after Photoshop. Okay, so I'm not showing you this with the intent of mocking anybody, but I want you to see what people use Photoshop for. Let's have a look at this photograph here. Already set of photographs. So look at the difference between these two photographs. Now, far be it from me to say that Angelina Jolie needs any kind of Photoshop work, but she's had it done. And it's been there to even out the skin tone. You can see in this one, there's no pores or anything like that. There's a little freckle here that someone felt was offensive to viewers and had to go. There's been very little work done to the shape of her face, but you can see the white of the eyes is whiter, the contrast is stronger, the skin tone is more even. And let's go on. I don't know who that is, but you can very clearly see what's been done to the photographs. That can be done with the warp tool and the spot healing brush as well. A lot of lines being removed here. Not much of this happening to men, by the way, but it looks like it does happen. Okay, so look, very harsh lighting in this one. Like warming up the picture um, would fix a lot of this. You can see they've gone too far with this. That doesn't look like a person. It looks like a shop dummy the way the skin tone is, you know. And you can see the difference there. Oh, there's one. And it's just, you can see there's been certain things done to accentuate the lines on the stomach and stuff like that, and just a lot of contrast there as well. Um, Now this one has had a lot done to it, and you can see the skin tone has been incredibly even. Now it's warmer, the photograph. But to my eyes, the nose looks smaller. The jaw or the shape of the face curves in where it curves out here. Lines on the neck have been smoothed out. Lines around the mouth, the ear. See this line here has been joined up over here, just to make it look, and in a way you kind of go, you have no idea what a celebrity looks like until you actually, if you ever should meet them. So it's a lot of work has been done in Photoshop, and in some cases you go, there's nothing wrong with that photograph. Why did they do this? Nothing wrong with any of these photographs. It's just that people feel they can't show flaws, you know, and where people can be transformed so much by these photographs and look so different. I mean, that just looks like incredibly thick makeup, you know. And anyway, let's move on from that. So what I did is I did a Google image search for face portrait white background. White background is important, and you'll see why. So I've chosen this one because the person is looking at the camera straight on, and that's going to be easier to work with. I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy that image, and then I go to Photoshop, File and New, and remember clipboard is there. I'm going to choose that because when I've copied something, Photoshop knows there's something in the clipboard I might want to use. And then I'm going to paste this in, and there she is. So I'm going to go View, Fit on Screen. Okay, I'm going to close this history window because I'm not using it at the moment. So in Photoshop, there are filters. Filters are just, as you know, it's not a term I really need to explain anymore, but they're essentially effects. And you can see there's a bunch of them down here, from 3D blur stuff. If you want to make something look blurry, you can distort things, you can sharpen them. The one I want here is a tool called Liquify. That's going to warp the image. So when I choose Liquify, it brings me into this menu here. And I'm going to zoom in on that. I think if I press Control, let me see, where can't I move on that? And if I zoom in, fit on screen. There it is. Okay, so over here, I've got a bunch of tools. The only one I'm going to use today is this one up the top. It's called Forward Warp. Now, it brings out this brush, right? So the way you think of this brush is sticky. It grabs things and it moves things. but it's stickier in the middle than it is on the edge, right? So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So let's say I want to move her nose, right? I'm going to bring my brackets down. Remember the brackets to the right of the P for changing the brush size. I really only want to manipulate the nose. So I want to get my brush kind of quite close to that. And then I click and I drag and let go. Click and drag and let go. And you can see I can start to move the image around. And the image bends with it as such. It's not, I'm not just moving this. The center of the brush is very sticky, but the edges are less sticky, or magnetic might be a way to think about it. So if I want to get her eyebrow and arch it a bit, I can just bring my brush down so that it's small enough to get the eyebrow but not the eye. And I just click, I drag a little bit at a time. Now, if I want to do big areas of the face, so let's say I want to narrow her face a bit. And again, I am not saying she needs this by any means, but I'm just showing you what happens. So I get my brush, and I'm going to put it here so the edge of the brush is on her face, and then I start to push. Now look at the hair. The face isn't moving that much. But towards the center of the brush, it is sticky. So let's put my center of my brush right on the edge of her face. Just tucking it in a little bit each side. Right? And then I'm going to bring in now let's say I decide, right, you know what, the chin, I want to bring that chin up. And again, I'm not making any judgments, I'm just showing you what happens. And you can see how somebody, let's say some celebrity put on a bit of weight or something, I wanted a photograph to kind of look a bit different. You could see this working. So let's okay this, right? Now I am going to undo this. That's what she was, and that's what she became. If you hadn't seen the before photo, you might not have known. Of course, I did something stupid with the nose, but let's go back and filter, liquify. Filter. Oh, sorry, that redid the effect. So I'm going to undo that, excuse me. So if up here is the last one you use, and I can redo it. I want to choose liquify to do it from scratch. Okay, so it brings me in here. View, fit on screen. I'm using the forward warp at the top there. And let's say, you know, if you do stupid things like that, it's going to be obvious. So I'm going to say edit undo. But if you do subtle things, you want a pointier chin or a narrower neck or something like that. And this is why I chose a white background, because if there was stuff in the background here, it would be warping as well. So I'm just going to basically try and change the shape of her face a little bit. And I'm doing it bit by bit. And every time I make a click and a drag, I'm looking at it going, am I happy with that? And if I am, I move on. I don't just drag, 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 and then look back and go, am I happy? Every time you make a click, are you happy? I want to do this big bit of hair here, so I'm going to make my brush a bit bigger. Now, let's say, so nobody has a perfectly symmetrical face, right? So we can take the eye, drop it down if we wanted to line them up a bit better. You know? We wanted the mouth to be a bit narrower or a bit shorter. And again, it doesn't look out of place if you do it subtly. But over time, with these subtle changes, you're making quite a difference to the face. Let's arch that eyebrow. This one is actually an easier one to arch, so let's move that. And that's okay. So, undo, before, redo. It's almost like a different person, you know, because our facial proportions and you know, our brain is trained to look for faces. That's why we think we see a man in the moon, or we think we see faces and things, or you know, Jesus appearing on a piece of toast and that kind of thing. Our brain is constantly scanning for faces, and we all look so different from each other, and that's important to us. Tigers identify each other by stripes. We look at faces. So a tiger looks like another tiger to you and me, but you know, they're looking for something else other than facial features. So and they're like incorporating smell and stuff. We don't tend to smell each other so much, but our brain is trying to look for faces, and this face is significantly different from that face to look like a different person. They look like each other, but they don't look the same. Like they could be sisters almost, or so. Let's go one step further with this. So we've done this. So let's go to, I'm going to add a layer above this. It'll bring back in some of the colorized stuff. So eyes. So let's zoom in on those eyes. And if you hold the space bar down, the cursor becomes a hand, and then you can just drag and let it go, and it goes back to whatever you were doing. So I'm going to choose paintbrush. I'm going to give it those very electric blue eyes that only people in magazines have. Again. And I'm kind of staying within the edge of the line of her eyes, and I'm going to switch to overlay. Right? So view, fit on screen. So now she has those ridiculous eyes that nobody has in real life, you know? So I'm on the eyes layer here. Let's drop down to layer 1. Now she has very nice teeth, but some people will go, okay, we need to brighten those teeth. I'm going to go to this tool here. It looks like a lollipop. I'm going to go to the dodge tool, and you can see that there, the way it's brightening the teeth. If I go to the burn tool, dodge and burn are all photographic terms. When you would give, when you were exposing photos in a dark room, you would use the dodge and burn technique to give certain areas of the photograph more light or less light to develop or underdevelop something. So the terms have hung around. So where is it? That one? Nope. Burn. So let's say you wanted to darken the lips, for instance. And again, this is a brush. It's a soft edge to it. And so let's say you wanted to darken this corner here, or accentuate that shadow there, or this shadow here. You know, you can darken what's already there. So view, fit on screen. So that's quite, and again, if the eyes are too intense, you can just bring down the opacity a little bit and just get a sense of them. One other thing I can show you. Let's say you decide, actually, you know what? I don't want her to have blue eyes. You could delete that layer and start again with a different color, or you could go image, adjustments, hue and saturation. This is just an aside while I see this, right? Grab that and move it out of the way. This is the hue. If I drag this, watch the eyes as they cycle through the different colors. So once you have a color in there, you can then start manipulating that color to get something else, you know? Let's say you want her to have these weird kind of almost cat-like orangey eyes. You can do that. If it's too intense, you can drag down the saturation. Or you can go back to green or blue or dark blue or violet eyes. There's an eye color that nobody has, so let's go with that. So you can kind of see how much manipulation goes on with photography. So again, I'm going to say File. Sorry, I want to say Save As. I'm going to call this Liquify. I'm going to save it into my folder. I'm going to save it as a PSD file, preserve all my layers. Again, if you always save as PSD, you can't go wrong. I'm going to save that, and now after this, you will all have the most amazing Facebook or Instagram profile pages and photographs that you've ever had, and no one will recognize you. All right, until the next one.